He had everything money could buy, but felt hollow inside. He decided to dress as a homeless man to find true love, until a poor cleaner stopped on the pavement and did something no rich woman had ever done for him. What happened next shocked everyone. Leonardo stood in front of the mirror in his gigantic walk-in closet, looking at dozens of expensive suits hanging like soldiers in a row. He had everything anyone could dream of, but inside, he felt like a desert. Women entered his life daily, always interested in his credit card, never his heart. "I need to find out if true love exists in this world," he murmured to himself, running a hand through his hair. The decision he made at that moment seemed insane, but it was the only way to be sure. He would pretend to be someone else. He would live as if he had nothing to see if anyone would love him for who he truly was. He went down to the basement of the mansion and grabbed old clothes he used for gardening. He dirtied everything with soil, tore some parts, messed up his hair. When he looked in the mirror again, not even he recognized himself. He looked like any ordinary person struggling to survive. The choice of location was no accident. In front of the high-rise commercial building where his company operated, hundreds of people passed by every day. If he was going to test humanity, it would be in the place with the most foot traffic. Leonardo sat on the pavement, leaning against the wall, and placed an old cap in front of him, as if asking for help. The first few hours were devastating. People passed him by as if he were invisible. Some looked with disgust, others completely averted their gaze. A man in a suit even made nasty comments about people who didn't want to work. Leonardo felt a deep sadness, not for himself, but for discovering how the world treated those who needed help. The sun was getting stronger when he saw a woman running along the pavement. She was clearly late, carrying a simple bag and checking her watch. She passed him directly, but a few steps later, she stopped. Leonardo watched as she turned and walked towards him. "Sorry, I saw you here and," she said, a little out of breath. "Are you okay? Do you need anything?" Leonardo looked up and saw the most genuine face he had ever seen. There was no false pity, no superiority. There was genuine concern, as if she truly cared about a complete stranger. I'm going through some problems," he replied, trying to make his voice sound weaker. "I have nowhere to stay." The woman opened her bag without hesitation, pulled out some crumpled notes, and offered them to him. "It's not much, but it should be enough for you to buy something to eat. There's a bakery on the corner that sells cheap buns." Leonardo stared at the money in her hand. He knew those notes probably represented her lunch, maybe even her bus fare home. The gesture was so simple, and yet so powerful, that his eyes welled up. "Thank you," he said, taking the money. "You didn't have to. Everyone needs help sometimes," she interrupted with a smile. "My name is Leticia. And you?" "Leonardo," he replied automatically, without thinking of inventing a false name. "Leonardo, I work here in this building. I pass by here every day. If you need anything else, look for me, okay? I don't have much, but there's always enough to share." Leticia looked at her watch again and grimaced. "Oh, I'm super late, but it was good to meet you, Leonardo. Take care, okay?" She ran towards the building entrance, and Leonardo stood there holding the notes, trying to process what had just happened. In the past few hours, dozens of well-dressed people with money in their pockets had passed him without even a glance. Leticia, who clearly didn't have much, stopped, offered help, and genuinely cared. Leonardo put the money in his pocket, but it wasn't the amount that mattered. It was what that gesture represented. For the first time in years, someone had shown real kindness, expecting nothing in return, without knowing who he was, how much he had in the bank, what cars he drove. He stood on the pavement thinking about Leticia, the way she spoke, simple and direct, how she offered help without invasive questions or judgments, how she promised to pass by every day if he needed anything else. This was not normal in the world he lived in. The hours passed slowly, but some people gave him coins, always throwing them from a distance, as if he were contagious. But no one stopped to talk, to ask his name, to treat him as a human being. Only Leticia had done that. When the movement began to decrease, Leonardo stood up and walked to the bakery she had indicated. He bought a bun with her money, more for symbolism than hunger. As he ate, he thought about how revealing this experience was. He returned home at the end of the day with his mind buzzing. The housekeeper asked where he had been, finding his appearance strange, but Leonardo brushed her off. He went up to his room and looked out the window, thinking about Leticia. She said she passed by every day. She said if he needed help, he should just look for her. There was a sincerity in her voice that Leonardo had never heard before. He decided he would go back the next day. He needed to get to know this woman better, who had stopped in the rush of life to help a stranger. As he took off his dirty clothes, Leonardo smiled for the first time in a long time. Perhaps real kindness existed in the world, and perhaps he had just found it. Leonardo arrived on the pavement early, dressed in the same dirty clothes as the day before. His mind had been restless since he woke up, thinking about his encounter with Leticia. He sat in the same spot and waited, observing the movement of people beginning to arrive for another workday. When he saw Leticia approaching, his heart quickened. She was walking slower today, without the desperate rush from before. Spotting Leonardo, her face lit up with a genuine smile he had never seen directed at him before. "Leonardo, you're still here?" she said, stopping in front of him. "Did you manage to eat yesterday?" "Yes, I did. Thank you for your help," he replied, touched by her concern. "I bought a bun from that bakery you recommended." Leticia squatted beside him, not caring about dirtying her trousers. "Look, I was thinking about your situation. Have you tried looking for a job? I know some places that always need people." Leonardo was speechless. Here was a woman who barely knew him, offering concrete help to change his life. It's complicated. I don't have a fixed address. Documents are a bit messed up." "Documents we can sort out," she said with determination. "The important thing is that you want to change, and from what I see, you don't look like someone who has given up on life." The conversation was interrupted when Leticia looked at her watch. "Oh, I need to go in or Madame Carmen will be angry with me." "But listen, what time are you here until?" "All day," Leonardo lied. "Then I'll meet you when I finish work. We can talk more, okay? I'll help you think of a plan." Leticia was already getting up when she hesitated. She opened her bag again and took out a sandwich wrapped in aluminum foil. "I made 2 packed meals today. One is yours." Leonardo took the sandwich with trembling hands. It wasn't just the food that moved him. It was the care. Someone had thought of him, had made something special, knowing he would be there. "Leticia, why are you doing this?" he asked, his voice choked. She stopped and looked directly into his eyes. "Because we all need someone sometimes. And because you seem like a good person who is just going through a difficult phase." Leonardo watched her enter the building and stood there holding the sandwich, feeling an emotion he couldn't name. For the first time in years, someone had seen goodness in him, without knowing his bank account. The hours passed slowly. Leonardo barely touched the sandwich, guarding it like a treasure. He watched people pass by and wondered how many would be capable of what Leticia was doing. The answer frightened him. When the movement began to decrease at the end of the workday, Leonardo saw Leticia coming out the main door. She looked around, searching for him, and walked over with that same welcoming smile. "Did you eat?" was the first thing she asked. "Yes, I did. It was delicious." "That's good. Come, let's go to the neighborhood park to talk better." They walked to a small nearby park. Leticia sat on a bench and gestured for him to sit beside her. Leonardo hesitated, conscious of his dirty clothes, but she insisted. "Tell me how you got into this situation," Leticia said, turning to face him. Leonardo had prepared a story during the day. "I worked at a company, nothing too special. When my mother fell ill, I spent all my savings on her treatment. I ended up in debt. I lost the apartment I was renting. It wasn't entirely a lie. Leonardo had indeed lost his mother a few years ago, and the pain of those moments was still real." "Oh, I'm so sorry," Leticia said, gently touching his arm. "It must have been very difficult to see your mother needing help and not being able to do more." The sincerity in her voice almost made him confess everything at that moment. "It was. And you? Tell me about your life too." Leticia sighed deeply. "It's not easy either. I work as a cleaner in that building. I do some extra cleaning on weekends. I have a mother who needs special care and a young son." "And the child's father?" Leonardo asked without thinking. "He disappeared when he found out about the pregnancy," she said, without bitterness. "But it's okay. My son and I manage." Leonardo felt a pang in his chest. "How can you be so positive with so much to face?" "Because complaining changes nothing," Leticia replied simply. "And there's always someone going through something worse. Look at you, for example. At least I have a roof over my head, a bed to sleep in." Her generosity was overwhelming. Here was a woman facing real difficulties, and yet still concerned with helping someone worse off. "Leticia, can I ask you something?" Leonardo said. "Why did you stop to help me? Most people don't even look." She was quiet for a few seconds, looking at the trees in the park. "My grandmother always said, you never know when you might be entertaining an angel in disguise. And even if you're not, everyone deserves to be treated with dignity." Leonardo felt his eyes well up. "You are a very special person. I'm not special. I just do what I believe is right." They continued talking until it got dark. Leticia told him about the dreams she had to abandon to take care of her family. She had studied to be a nurse, but had to stop halfway through her course when her mother fell ill. "Sometimes I wonder what it would be like if things were different," she said, looking at the sky. "But there's no point living with what-ifs, right? Life is what it is." Leonardo was fascinated by her strength. "Do you still think about going back to study?" "Who knows? One day." She smiled sadly. "When my son grows up, when my mother doesn't need me as much. But those are dreams for a long way off." "Dreams are never too far away," Leonardo said. And for the first time, he spoke from the heart. Leticia looked at him with curiosity. "You speak like someone who understands that." Leonardo realized he had said too much. "I just think we should never give up on our dreams." "And do you have dreams too?" The question caught Leonardo off guard. What did he really dream of? "I dream of finding real people, people like you." Leticia blushed slightly. "You are very kind. I'm being sincere." She looked at her watch and stood up. "I need to pick up my son from the neighbor's house. He stays with her when I work." "Of course, I don't want to bother." "You're not bothering," Leticia said firmly. "I enjoyed talking to you. Tomorrow I'll bring you some more job tips, okay?" Leonardo also stood up. "Leticia, thank you so much for everything, for treating me like a person." "You are a person," she replied as if it were obvious. "And everything will be okay, you'll see." She waved goodbye and started walking away. Leonardo stood there, watching her leave, his heart full of contradictory emotions. He returned home that night completely transformed. The conversation with Leticia had stirred deep structures within his soul. For the first time, he had met someone who wanted nothing from him beyond his happiness, but he also felt a terrible weight from the lie. Leticia was offering genuine help to someone who didn't need it. She was sacrificing time and energy for a farce. Leonardo looked at himself in the mirror of his luxurious bathroom and couldn't recognize who he was becoming. The conversations with Leticia were awakening parts of him he thought had died long ago. He decided he would continue the experiment for a few more days. He needed to understand this extraordinary woman who had crossed his path better. He also needed to understand what was happening with his own heart. He slept that night, thinking about her smile, the affectionate way she touched his arm, the genuine concern in her eyes. For the first time in years, he couldn't wait for the next day. Leonardo arrived home and went straight to his room, avoiding Marina, his housekeeper, who was waiting in the living room with a worried expression. He wasn't prepared to explain where he had spent the day dressed as a homeless man. He closed the bedroom door and threw himself onto the king-sized bed, but his mind was far from all that luxury. He stared at the ceiling, thinking about his conversation with Leticia, the way she spoke about her abandoned dreams, about caring for her sick mother, about raising her son alone. Every word of hers echoed in his head like a punch to his conscience. He picked up his phone and, on impulse, typed her name into social media. He found her simple profile with few photos, one of her smiling with a small boy in her arms, another helping an elderly lady in a wheelchair. There were no selfies in expensive restaurants, exotic travel destinations, or any ostentation. Just real moments from a real life. Leonardo scrolled through the photos, feeling a lump in his throat. In one of them, Leticia was at a graduation, wearing a white nursing uniform half done. The caption read, "One day, I'll come back to finish this dream." It had only 3 likes and a comment from her mother. "Proud of you, daughter." That image destroyed him inside. Leticia had stopped studying to care for her family, sacrificing her own future to ensure the well-being of those she loved. And there he was, pretending to be in need to a woman who knew real deprivation. His phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. It was Rodrigo, his business partner and best friend. "Leonardo, man, where have you been today? I tried calling you several times. I was sorting out some personal things," Leonardo replied vaguely. "What things? You've been acting strange for days. Marina said you came home with dirty clothes yesterday." Leonardo sighed. Rodrigo had known him for many years, since university, when they built the company from scratch. If anyone could understand his existential crisis, it was him. "Rodrigo, can I ask you something? Do you think people seek us out for who we are or for what we have?" "Man, what kind of question is that? Of course, for what we have. We live in a capitalist world, not a fairy tale." Rodrigo's direct answer confirmed Leonardo's worst fears. "What if we had nothing? Do you think anyone would care about us?" "Leonardo, are you okay? You're talking like you're having a midlife crisis." "Maybe I am," Leonardo murmured, hung up the phone, and went back to looking at Leticia's photos. In all of them, even the simplest ones. She radiated a genuine happiness he had never felt, even with everything money could buy. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Leticia arrived home carrying supermarket bags and medicines. She lived in a small HDB flat on the second floor of an older estate, but she kept it immaculately clean and organized. "Mum, I'm home," she announced, entering through the door. "Hi, daughter," MDM Isabel replied from her wheelchair, watching TV with Pedrinho, Leticia's son, playing on the floor beside her. "Mummy," the boy shouted, running to hug Leticia. "Hi, my love. How was your day with Grandma? We drew pictures. Look!" Pedrinho showed a sheet full of colorful scribbles. "How beautiful! I'll stick it on the fridge." Leticia kissed her mother's forehead and noticed she was paler than usual. "Mum, how are the pains today?" "Ah, daughter, same as usual, but don't worry about me." Leticia knew her mother always minimized her suffering to not worry her further. The treatment was getting increasingly expensive, and the medicines were a fortune every month. But she would never let her mother know about the financial difficulties. While preparing dinner, Leticia told her mother about Leonardo. "Mom, today I met a young man who is going through difficulties. He's living on the streets." MDM, Isabel raised her eyebrows. "And you're already wanting to help, aren't you, Leticia?" "My daughter, your heart is too good, but sometimes you worry too much about others." "Mum, imagine if Pedrinho were in such a situation. I would want someone to help him." "I know, daughter, but you already have so much to worry about with me, with Pedrinho, with work." "Precisely because of that, I understand what he's going through," Leticia replied, stirring the beans on the stove. "When you're at rock bottom, any outstretched hand makes a difference." MDM, Isabel watched her daughter cooking and felt a pang in her heart. She knew how many sacrifices Leticia made every day. She saw how she gave up her own needs to ensure the well-being of her family. "Leticia, you never told me, but I know you stopped buying things for yourself to pay for my medicines." Leticia stopped stirring the beans. "Mum, don't say that. It's true. Your sandals have been worn out for months. You haven't bought new clothes for yourself or for Pedrinho, and yet you're thinking of helping a stranger." Tears began to stream down Leticia's face. "Mum, I do this because I love you all. And about Leonardo, it's different. When I looked into his eyes, I saw a sadness that goes beyond the lack of money. I saw someone who had lost hope. And you want to give him hope back? I want to try. I know how terrible it is to feel alone in the world." MDM Isabel extended her hand to her daughter. "You are the most generous person I know, Leticia. Your father would be proud." Leticia held her mother's hand and cried silently. The mention of her father always moved her. He had passed away when Pedrinho was a baby, a victim of a work accident. Since then, she had been the pillar of the family. That night, after putting Pedrinho to sleep and helping her mother with her medicines, Leticia sat in the small kitchen to organize the month's bills. The numbers on the calculator never added up. There was always not enough money for something. She looked at the fridge, where she had stuck her son's drawing, and thought of Leonardo. She decided that the next day, she would bring an extra-packed meal for him. It cost nothing to make food for one more person, and perhaps that gesture would make a difference in his life. Leonardo, for his part, was in his luxurious home office, working on his computer. He had researched more about Leticia and discovered things that left him even more impressed and guilty at the same time. He found old records from when she was studying nursing, excellent grades, praise from professors, participation in volunteer projects at the university hospital. Leticia was not just a good person, she was brilliant and had abandoned everything to care for her family. He also discovered that she worked 3 different jobs to make ends meet. Besides cleaning in the commercial building, she did cleaning at a clinic on weekends and still took on extra jobs when she could. The guilt Leonardo felt was devastating. Here was a woman fighting against all adversities, sacrificing her own dreams for her family, and still finding time and energy to help a stranger on the street. And he was lying to her, playing with her feelings, but at the same time, he had never felt so alive. The conversations with Leticia awakened emotions in him that had been dormant for years. The way she looked at him, how she genuinely cared, how she offered help without expecting anything in return. Leonardo stood up and went to the panoramic window of his apartment that overlooked the entire city. All those lights represented lives, stories, people struggling to survive. And somewhere down there was Leticia, probably awake too, worrying about bills or her mother's health. He made a decision. He would continue with the disguise for a few more days, but not out of curiosity or social experiment. He would continue because he wanted to get to know this extraordinary woman better. He wanted to understand where such strength, such kindness, such capacity for love came from, and perhaps, deep down, he was starting to fall in love for the first time in his life. The dawn arrived with Leonardo still awake, planning how he could help Leticia without revealing his identity. He wanted to do something for her mother, for the expensive medicines, for her son's education, but he knew she would never accept help from a stranger. He would have to be creative. He would have to find a way to improve her life without raising suspicions, because one thing he had discovered in those days, Leticia was not only the kindest woman he had ever met, she was also the most dignified, and he was willing to do anything to deserve her love. Leonardo arrived on the pavement earlier than usual, anxious for his meeting with Leticia. He had spent the entire night thinking about her, about the conversation they had, about the strength she showed, even while facing so many difficulties. When he saw her approaching, carrying a thermal bag in addition to her usual handbag, his heart quickened. "Good morning, Leonardo," she said with that smile that brightened any room. "How was your night?" "Good, thank you." "And?" "Busy as always," Leticia replied, sitting beside him on the pavement. "But I brought a surprise for you." She opened the thermal bag and took out a still-warm container. "I made a packed meal, home-cooked food made with care." Leonardo took the container, his hands trembling. It wasn't just the food that moved him. It was knowing that someone had woken up earlier, had thought of him, had made that especially for him. "Leticia, you didn't have to." "Of course I did," she interrupted. "Hawker food isn't very nutritious. You need to eat properly if you want the strength to look for work." Leonardo opened the container and saw rice, beans, shredded chicken, and colorful vegetables. Everything arranged with care, as if for someone special. And at that moment, he felt truly special, for the first time in a long time. "How did you find the time to do this?" he asked, knowing she worked several jobs. "I woke up a little earlier." It was nothing much, but Leonardo knew it was much more than that. He knew that this woman had sacrificed precious hours of sleep. She had used ingredients that cost money she didn't have to spare, all to care for a stranger. "Leticia, can I ask you something? Why do you do so much for me? You barely know me." She was quiet for a few seconds, looking at the street traffic. "You know, Leonardo, there's something I've never told anyone. When my father passed away, my mother and I went through a very difficult phase. We even went without food for a few days." Leonardo felt a lump in his throat. "Seriously? It was me, pregnant with Pedrinho, taking care of my mother, who had just discovered her condition. I had no job, nowhere to go. One day I was sitting on a park bench crying, not knowing what to do. Tears began to stream down Leticia's face. An unknown lady approached me. She didn't say anything, just sat beside me and stayed there with me. Then she gave me an envelope with money and said, 'My child, sometimes we need to be an angel in someone's life.'" Leonardo was deeply moved. "And you never saw her again?" "Never." "True. But that act changed my life. It gave me strength to keep fighting. Since then, whenever I can, I try to be that angel for someone." The revelation hit Leonardo like a punch to the stomach. Leticia was not helping him out of pity or charity. She was returning an act of kindness she had received in a moment of despair. "You are an incredible person," he said, his voice choked. "I'm not. I just do what anyone should do." At that moment, Leonardo saw a man approaching along the pavement, and his blood ran cold. It was Marcelo Ferraz, a businessman who frequented the same social circles as him. If Marcelo recognized him, the whole charade would be discovered. Leonardo quickly lowered his head, pulling his cap over his eyes. "Leticia, that man there, what about him?" she asked, looking in the direction Leonardo had indicated. Marcelo was walking directly towards them, talking on his phone. As he approached, Leonardo realized it would be impossible to go unnoticed. "Leonardo? Leonardo Mendes?" Marcelo said, stopping in front of them with an expression of complete surprise. Leonardo slowly looked up, trying to think of a quick excuse. Leticia looked between the two, confused by the situation. "Dude, what are you doing here like this?" Marcelo continued, scrutinizing Leonardo's dirty clothes. "Is this some kind of social project for your company?" "It's something like that," Leonardo stammered, desperate for Marcelo not to say anything more compromising. "How cool. I've always admired that philanthropic side of yours. How long are you going to stay in this experiment?" Leonardo saw Leticia frowning, clearly confused by the conversation. He needed to act fast before she started asking questions. "Marcelo, actually, I was just sorry to interrupt," Leticia interjected, getting up from the pavement. "Do you two know each other?" Marcelo looked at Leticia as if seeing her for the first time. "No, we don't. I'm Marcelo Ferraz, a real estate businessman. And you are?" "Leticia. I work here in the building." "Ah, how nice. And how did you meet Leonardo?" The question left Leticia even more confused. "I met him right here on the pavement. He's going through difficulties." Marcelo laughed loudly. "Difficulties? Leticia, do you know who this man is?" Leonardo felt the world crash down. "Marcelo, please! This is Leonardo Mendes, owner of Mendes and Associates, one of the largest financial consulting firms in the country. The guy has more money than a bank." The silence that followed was deafening. Leticia looked at Leonardo with an expression that mixed shock, confusion, and something that looked like deep disappointment. "What do you mean?" she whispered. Marcelo realized he had said too much. "Oops, I think I stuck my nose where it didn't belong. Leonardo, we'll talk later, okay?" He left quickly, leaving Leonardo and Leticia alone in an awkward situation. Leticia continued to look at him, waiting for an explanation he didn't know how to give. "Leticia, I can explain." "Explain what?" she said, her voice coming out harsher than usual. "That you lied to me from day one. That you made a fool of me? It wasn't like that." "How was it then?" Leticia was visibly shaken. "You're rich and you pretended to be poor here for what? To have fun with the naive woman who believed in you?" Tears began to stream down her face. "I took food from my son's mouth to bring to you. I woke up earlier to make your packed meal. I worried about you." Every word of Leticia's was like a stab in Leonardo's heart. Seeing the pain in her eyes, knowing he had caused that disappointment, was worse than any punishment. "Leticia, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" "That I'm so pathetic that you found it funny to play with me." "I never thought you were pathetic, on the contrary." "Then what? You pitied me? Thought my naivete was cute? I fell in love with you." The words came out of Leonardo's mouth before he even realized it. Leticia stopped crying and looked at him in disbelief. "What did you say?" "I fell in love with you, Leticia, for your kindness, for your strength, for the way you see the world. You showed me what true love is." Leticia shook her head slowly. "I can't believe you're saying this now. After lying to me from the very first moment, I know I ruined everything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but everything I felt for you was real." "Real?" Leticia laughed without humor. "How can it be real if it's built on a lie?" She picked up her bag and started to walk away. "Leonardo, or whatever your real name is, I don't want to see you ever again. My name is Leonardo, and what I feel for you is real." But Leticia was already walking towards the building. Without looking back, Leonardo stood there, holding the packed meal she had made with such care, watching the woman he loved walk away, perhaps forever. At that moment, he realized he had made the biggest mistake of his life. He had found true love, and had lost it because of a lie that began as an experiment and ended as a tragedy. The packed meal grew cold in his hands as he tried to process the dimension of what had happened. Leticia was not only the kindest woman he had ever met, she was also the only one who had truly cared about him, and he had betrayed her in the worst possible way. Leonardo spent the entire night walking the streets of the city, unable to get the look of pain on Leticia's face out of his head. Every word she had said echoed in his ears like a condemnation. "I took food from my son's mouth to bring to you." That phrase destroyed him inside. When dawn broke, he made a decision that would change everything. He would no longer lie. He would no longer hide. He dressed in his usual clothes, a simple collared shirt and jeans, and went straight to the building where Leticia worked. He needed to talk to her. He needed to explain. Even knowing it might be too late, he arrived at the building and waited in the reception area. Uncle Carlos, the security guard, recognized him immediately. "Mr. Leonardo, you're here early today. Did you come to sort something out at the company?" Leonardo took a deep breath. "Actually, I came to speak with one of the cleaning staff, Leticia." Uncle Carlos raised his eyebrows, surprised. "Leticia? She hasn't arrived yet, but she should be here soon. Can I tell her you want to speak with her?" "No need. I'll wait right here." Leonardo sat on one of the reception armchairs, more nervous than he had ever been. Some people passing by greeted him, finding it strange to see him there so early and with such a tense expression. When Leticia entered through the main door, carrying her cleaning supplies, she stopped immediately upon seeing him. Her face hardened into an expression of coldness that cut Leonardo's heart. "What are you doing here?" she asked, approaching him with stiff steps. "I came to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about." Leticia tried to walk past, but Leonardo stood up, gently blocking her path. "Please, Leticia, give me 5 minutes. You've already wasted several days of my life with your lies. I'm not going to waste another 5 minutes. Some people in the reception area started looking in their direction, curious about the conversation. Leonardo realized this was not the ideal place for an intimate conversation. Then meet me when you finish work, please. No, Leticia, I know you're hurt. Hurt? She interrupted him, her voice louder than intended. Do you think it's just hurt, Leonardo? You played with my feelings? You pretended to need help from a woman who really needs help. Tears began to stream down her face, and Leonardo felt like hugging her, wiping away every one of those tears, but he knew he no longer had that right. You made me feel special, she continued, her voice choked. You made me believe I was making a difference in someone's life, and it was all just a game for you. It was never a game, Leticia. Never. Then what was it? A social experiment, a bet with your rich friends. Leonardo looked around and saw that now several people were paying attention to the conversation. He decided it no longer mattered who was listening. All that mattered was making Leticia understand. It was fear, he said, his voice clear and firm. Fear of never finding someone who would love me for real. Leticia stopped crying and looked at him intently. Do you know how many women approached me in the last year? Leonardo continued. Dozens. Beautiful, intelligent, successful. But all of them wanted the same thing. My money, my status, my apartment, my cars. He felt his own voice begin to falter. I was tired, Leticia. Tired of being seen as a prize, as an object. I wanted to find someone who would look at me and see a person, not a bank account. And you thought lying was the solution? I thought it was the only way to be sure, Leonardo admitted. But I was wrong, completely wrong. Leticia shook her head. Leonardo, you don't understand the gravity of what you did. I opened my heart to you, told you about my mother, about my son, about my dreams, and I kept every word in my heart, he interrupted. Every story you told, every smile you gave me, every gesture of affection, none of it was wasted. How can I believe you? How do I know you're not lying again? Leonardo thought for a few seconds and made a decision that frightened him. If he wanted to prove he was sincere, he would have to expose himself completely. My full name is Leonardo Mendes Silva. I've had the company for 12 years. I built it from scratch with a friend from university. I live alone in an apartment in a prime residential district, which is too big and too empty. He took a deep breath before continuing. I lost my mother 3 years ago due to medical complications that I could have avoided if I had paid more attention to her. Since then, I feel guilty every day. Leticia was listening in silence, watching Leonardo open up in a way that left him completely vulnerable. I don't have true friends, only business partners. I don't have close family. I spend most weekends alone, trying to fill a void that money never managed to fill. Tears began to stream down Leonardo's face too. Until I met you. For the first time in years, I woke up excited to live a day. For the first time in years, I felt important to someone. Leticia, I know I ruined everything. He continued, not letting her speak. I know I broke your trust in the worst possible way, but I need you to know one thing. Every moment we spent together was real for me. Every conversation, every smile of yours, every gesture of affection you showed me. Leonardo wiped away his tears and looked directly into Leticia's eyes. You ask me if I was lying again. I'm not. I'm telling you the most painful truth of my life, that I am a lost, empty man who had everything in life and didn't know how to value anything until I met you. The silence that followed was intense. People around them had completely stopped their activities to listen to that declaration. Leticia was looking at Leonardo with an expression that mixed pain, confusion, and something that looked like compassion. You really believe that justifies what you did? She asked softly. It justifies nothing, Leonardo replied immediately. There is no justification for what I did. It was pure selfishness, but I am here humiliating myself in front of everyone because you are worth more than my pride. Leticia closed her eyes for a few seconds, as if trying to process everything she had heard. Leonardo, you hurt me deeply, she said when she opened her eyes again. You made me question if I am so naive, if I am so easy to deceive. You are not naive, you are kind. You are the purest and most truthful person I have ever met in my life. How can I believe anything you say after finding out you lied from day one? The question hit Leonardo like a punch. She was right. How could he expect her to trust him again after breaking that trust in such a devastating way? I don't know, he replied with total honesty. I don't know how you can believe me. I only know that I will spend the rest of my life trying to prove that I deserve a second chance. Leticia shook her head slowly. Leonardo, I need to think. I need to process all of this. But how much time do you need? I don't know. Maybe a long time. Maybe I'll never be able to forgive you. The possibility of losing Leticia forever made Leonardo feel a desperation he had never experienced before. Can I wait? I'll wait as long as it takes. Why? Because I'm worth so much to you? Leonardo looked into her eyes and decided to tell the most important truth of all. Because you taught me to love. Because you showed me that real kindness exists in the world. Because when I look at you, I see the person I would like to be. He took a deep breath before continuing. And because I am in love with you in a way I never thought possible. Not for what you have or for what you do for me, but for who you are. Leticia looked at him for a few seconds that seemed like hours. Then she picked up the cleaning supplies she had left on the floor and started walking towards the elevator. Leticia, wait! Leonardo called. She stopped and turned around. Leonardo, I need to work now, and you need to give me space to think. Can I call you? Can I look for you? No. When I'm ready to talk, if I ever am, I'll find you. She entered the elevator, and the doors closed, taking with them the woman who had become the most important thing in Leonardo's life. He stood in the reception area, feeling the stares of all the people who had witnessed that scene. Uncle Carlos approached him. Mr. Leonardo, with all due respect, Leticia is a very special woman. If you can earn her forgiveness, you will be the luckiest man in the world. Leonardo nodded, feeling the full weight of his actions. I know, Uncle Carlos, I know. He left the building knowing he had done all he could at that moment. Now all that remained was to wait and hope that love would be stronger than disappointment. 3 days passed since the last conversation between Leonardo and Leticia, and he was devastated. He couldn't work, couldn't eat, couldn't think of anything else but her. Rodrigo had called several times, concerned about his absence from the company, but Leonardo merely said he was sorting out personal matters. Marina, his housekeeper, was equally worried. Mr. Leonardo, you're not well. You haven't eaten properly for days. You're pacing around the house like a restless spirit. I'm fine, Marina. I just need to resolve a situation. What situation? Maybe I can help. Leonardo looked at Marina, who had worked for him for over 5 years. She was a simple, honest woman who had always cared for him with maternal affection. Perhaps she could understand. Marina, have you ever loved someone enough to do anything for that person? She smiled sadly. Of course, sir. I have 3 children, and I once loved a man who broke my heart. How did you get over it? Who said I did? Marina chuckled softly. Some wounds we learn to carry, not to heal. Leonardo felt a pang in his chest. And if you had a chance to win that love back, would you do anything? Depending on what it was, yes. But true love isn't won back with desperation, mister. Leonardo, it's won back with truth and patience. At that same moment, on the other side of the city, Leticia was having the worst week of her life. She couldn't get Leonardo out of her head. She couldn't stop thinking about the pain she saw in his eyes when he confessed his feelings. Daughter, you've been different since that day, Mdm Isabel said as Leticia arranged her medicines. Want to talk? It's nothing, Mum. Leticia, I'm your mother. I know when you're suffering. Leticia stopped what she was doing and sat beside her mother. Remember that young man I told you I was helping? Leonardo, the one who was living on the streets? He lied. Mum, he's rich, very rich. He pretended to be poor. I don't quite know why. MDM Isabel was silent for a few seconds, processing the information. And how did you find out? Leticia recounted the whole story to her mother, from the encounter with Marcelo to the conversation in the building. As she spoke, tears returned to her face. He said he was in love with me, Mum. But how can I believe someone who lied from the very first moment? Medium Isabel held her daughter's hand. Leticia, can I ask you a question? When you talked, when he was still pretending, did you feel he was lying? No. He seemed genuine. That's why it hurt so much to discover the truth. And the way he looked at you? The way he treated you? Leticia closed her eyes, remembering the moments they had shared. With affection, with respect, as if I were the most important person in the world. Then perhaps his feelings were true, even if the circumstances were false. Mum, he deceived me. Deceived you about his financial situation, but did he deceive you about his feelings? Her mother's question made Leticia reflect deeply. She remembered every look from Leonardo, every kind word, every moment he seemed moved by her kindness. Meanwhile, Leonardo had made a decision. He would no longer wait passively. He would go to the building where Leticia worked every day until she agreed to talk to him again. On the 4th day, he arrived very early, and stood on the pavement in front of the building. But this time, he wasn't pretending to be homeless. He was dressed normally, holding a sign that read, "Leticia, I need your forgiveness." Uncle Carlos, the security guard, saw him from the window and came down to talk. "Mr. Leonardo, what are you doing?" "Waiting for Leticia. I need to talk to her." "But sir, like this, in the street, people will talk." "Let them talk, Uncle Carlos. I don't care about that anymore." When Leticia arrived and saw Leonardo standing on the pavement with that sign, her heart quickened. Several people were looking, some taking photos with their phones. She approached him, mortified. "Leonardo, what are you doing? Everyone is looking." "I don't care. I just want to talk to you." "No, here you're putting on a show." Leonardo dropped the sign on the ground. "Then let's talk somewhere else, please." Leticia looked around, seeing the curious onlookers. "You're embarrassing me. I'm sorry. That wasn't my intention. I'm just desperate." The word desperate touched something deep in Leticia's heart. She could see in his eyes that it wasn't an act. It was real desperation. 5 minutes, she said, at the park. They walked to the same bench where they had talked for the first time. Leonardo was nervous, knowing it might be his last chance. "Leticia, I know you asked for time to think, but I couldn't stay away. I'm going crazy." "Leonardo, let me finish, please." He took a deep breath. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I broke your trust in the worst possible way, but I need you to know one thing." Leticia remained silent, waiting. "In the last few days, I looked for information about you, about your family, about your life." "You investigated me?" she asked, indignant. "It wasn't an investigation, it was care." Leonardo took an envelope from his pocket. "I discovered that your mother needs a specific treatment that costs a lot of money. I discovered that you work 3 jobs to make ends meet. I discovered that you gave up university to care for your family." Leticia grew tense. "What do you want with this?" "I want to help without expecting anything in return." He extended the envelope to her. "Here is a check sufficient to pay for your mother's treatment for the next 2 years and for you to go back to university." Leticia looked at the envelope as if it were poison. "Are you trying to buy me?" "No. I'm trying to right the wrong I did." "Leonardo, you don't understand anything." Leticia stood up, visibly irritated. "Do you think you can solve everything with money?" "I don't think I can solve everything. I just want to help. I don't want your help. I don't want your charity." "It's not charity, Leticia. It's love." The word hung in the air between them. Leticia stopped walking and turned to face him. "Love? You call this love? Lying to someone? Investigating their private life? And then trying to buy their forgiveness? I'm not trying to buy anything. I'm trying to show that I genuinely care about you. If you genuinely cared, you would respect my decision not to want to talk to you." Leonardo felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. "Leticia, please." "No, Leonardo, you don't understand. You don't understand what it is to have pride even when you're poor. You don't understand what it is to fight for everything you have. You don't understand that some things money can't buy." She started to walk away again. "And one of those things is my trust." Leonardo stood still, holding the envelope, watching the woman he loved walk away once more. But this time, something inside him changed. He realized he was approaching everything the wrong way. He ran after her. "Leticia, wait! Leonardo, enough!" "You're right," he said, out of breath. "You are completely right." Leticia stopped, surprised by the change in his tone. "I don't understand what it is to have pride when you're poor. I don't understand what it is to fight for everything you have. I don't understand that money can't buy some things." Leonardo tore the check in front of her. "But I want to learn. I want you to teach me." Leticia stared at the pieces of the check on the ground, incredulous. "If you give me a chance, not as the rich man trying to solve everything with money, but as the lost man who needs to learn to be a better person." She looked into his eyes and saw something different. It was no longer desperation. It was humility. "Leonardo, even if I wanted to forgive you, how can I trust you again?" "I don't know," he replied with honesty. "I just know that I will spend the rest of my life trying to prove that I can be worthy of your trust." Leticia was silent for a few seconds that seemed like an eternity. "A chance?" she said finally. "A single chance, but with a condition." Leonardo's heart raced. "Any condition. No more lies. Never again. About anything. Even if the truth hurts, I promise. And no trying to solve my problems with money. If you want to know the real me, you have to accept me as I am, with my difficulties and everything else. I promise that too." Leticia extended her hand to him. "Then, let's start from scratch. My name is Leticia Santos. I'm 29. I'm a cleaner, a single mother, and I care for my mother, who has a delicate condition. Leonardo took her hand, feeling an overwhelming emotion. My name is Leonardo Mendes. I'm 36. I'm a businessman, and I'm a man who lost his way in life until I found an extraordinary woman who showed me what truly matters. For the first time in days, Leticia smiled, a small smile, still full of caution, but it completely illuminated Leonardo's world. It won't be easy, she said. I'm still hurt. I'm still afraid to trust you. I know, and I will prove every day that I deserve your trust. Leticia released his hand. I need to go back to work. MDM Carmen must be looking for me. Can I see you after work? She hesitated for a few seconds. You can, but this time I want you to meet my family, my mother and my son. If we're going to try again, I want it to be with total transparency. Leonardo felt his heart swell with gratitude. It will be an honor to meet your family. As he walked back home, Leonardo knew he had gained a precious second chance, and this time, he wouldn't waste it. Leonardo arrived at the address Leticia had given him late in the afternoon. The old HDB block in the humble neighborhood contrasted drastically with his reality, but he felt no discomfort. He felt privileged to be included in her real life. He climbed the stairs to the second floor and knocked on the door with the number 23. Leticia answered, and he noticed she had changed clothes, put on a simple but beautiful dress. Are you nervous? She asked, noticing the tension in his face. Very. What if your mother doesn't like me? What if your son rejects me? Then you'll have to win them over. Leticia smiled for the second time that day. Just like you're trying to win me over. She led him inside the small but impeccably organized apartment. Leonardo immediately saw where Leticia's strength came from. The environment radiated love, care, a united family. Pedrinho, I want to introduce you to someone, Leticia called. MDM Isabel appeared from the living room, moving slowly with the support of a walking stick. Leonardo was impressed by the dignity she maintained, despite her physical difficulties. Mum, this is Leonardo. Leonardo, my mother, MDM Isabel. It's a pleasure to meet you, MDM Isabel, Leonardo said, extending his hand respectfully. She scrutinized him with experienced eyes that had seen much in life. So, you are the young man who lied to my daughter? The direct question caught Leonardo off guard, but he decided to keep his promise of total honesty. Yes, MDM. I did, and I deeply regret it. Why did you lie? Leonardo took a deep breath. Because I was afraid, MDM Isabel, afraid of never finding someone who would love me for who I am, not for what I have. And you thought deceiving my daughter was the solution? I hadn't thought about the consequences. It was selfish of me. MDM Isabel continued to look at him in silence. My daughter told me you fell in love with her. Is that true? It's the honest truth I've ever spoken in my life. At that moment, a small boy appeared running from the kitchen, stopping timidly behind his grandmother when he saw the stranger in the living room. Pedrinho, come here, Leticia called affectionately. This is Leonardo I told you about. The boy approached slowly, looking at Leonardo with curiosity. Are you the man Mummy likes? The innocent question made Leticia blush and Leonardo's heart quicken. Your son is very direct, Leonardo said to Leticia, smiling. He takes after the family, Madame Isabel commented, and Leonardo noticed a slightly warmer tone in her voice. May I sit and talk with you all? Leonardo asked. Of course, Leticia replied. Pedrinho, go get the drawing you made today. While the boy ran to his room, Madame Isabel settled into the armchair and gestured for Leonardo to sit on the sofa. Leonardo, may I ask you a personal question? Madame Isabel said. Of course, Madame. Have you ever experienced hardship in your life? Leonardo hesitated for a few seconds, remembering his promise of total honesty. No. MDM Isabel, I've never gone hungry. I've never been homeless. I've never had to choose between buying medicine or food. Then how can you understand our reality? I can't, Leonardo admitted. And that's why I need to learn. I need you to teach me. MDM. Isabel exchanged a look with Leticia. Teach you what? How a family can be so united, even when facing difficulties. How your daughter can be so generous having so little. How you all manage to smile even when everything seems difficult. Pedrinho ran back with a paper in his hands. Uncle, look what I drew. Leonardo took the drawing and saw colorful lines that seemed to represent a family. Who are these people? It's Mummy, Grandma, me, and you, Pedrinho said animatedly. Leonardo looked at the drawing, feeling his eyes well up. You drew me in your family? Mummy said you're special to her. So you're special to us too. The child's innocence touched something deep in Leonardo's heart. He looked at Leticia, who was clearly moved by her son's gesture. Pedrinho, can I ask you something? Leonardo said, crouching down to the boy's level. You can. What do you like to do most with your mummy? I like when she tells me stories before bedtime and when we make kueh on Sunday. And what do you want to be when you grow up? A doctor, to take care of grandma and other sick people. Leonardo looked at Medium Isabel, who was smiling proudly at her grandson. Pedrinho, do you know your mommy also wanted to be in the medical field? Seriously? The boy looked at Leticia in surprise. It's true, Leticia confirmed. I was studying to be a nurse. Why did you stop, mommy? Leticia hesitated, but Leonardo answered first. Because your mommy is a hero. She gave up her own dreams to take care of you all. Medium Isabel looked at Leonardo with a different expression. There was respect there. Leonardo, she said, can I speak to you privately? Of course. Leticia took Pedrinho to the kitchen, leaving the two of them alone in the living room. My daughter is the most precious person in this world, Medium Isabel began. She has suffered a lot. Pedrinho's father abandoned her when he found out about the pregnancy. She had to give up everything to take care of me when I discovered my condition. Leonardo listened in silence, feeling the weight of the responsibility Leticia carried. She never complained, never lamented. She always said we were her priority, but I see in her eyes that sometimes she misses having someone to take care of her too. Medium Isabel, I want to be that person. Wanting is easy. Achieving is another story. She leaned forward. Are you willing to not only love my daughter, but also accept that we are a complete package? Me with my condition, Pedrinho with his needs. I accept, with the greatest love in the world, Leonardo replied without hesitation. And are you willing to respect our way of life, our simplicity, our values? I am. In fact, I want to learn from you all. Medium Isabel smiled for the first time. Then, you have my blessing, but with one condition. What? If you ever hurt my daughter again, you'll have to deal with me. Leonardo laughed, realizing he had gained a powerful ally. You can count on it, Medium Isabel. I don't intend to waste this second chance. Leticia returned from the kitchen with Pedrinho and a simple cake. Everyone, how about some coffee? During the following hours, Leonardo experienced something he had never before. A real family evening. They played simple games, told stories, laughed at silly anecdotes. Pedrinho snuggled into his lap to listen to a story, and Leonardo felt his heart fill with a paternal love he didn't know existed. When it was time to leave, Leticia walked him to the door. How was it? She asked. It was perfect. Your family is incredible. They liked you, especially Pedrinho. And are you still angry with me? Leticia was thoughtful for a few seconds. I'm not angry anymore. I'm still hurt. I'm still wary. But I saw you here today, and you seemed genuine. It was genuine. Every second was real. Leonardo, if we're going to try this, I need you to understand one thing. My life is simple. I don't have glamour. I don't have luxury. We have real difficulties, concrete problems. I know, and I want to be part of that simple life, even if it means giving up some things from your world. Leticia, your world showed me what mine never could. True happiness. She smiled, and this time it was a complete smile, without reservations. Then let's take it slow. One day at a time. One day at a time, Leonardo repeated. She leaned in and gave him a soft kiss on his cheek. Thank you for being honest with my family. Thank you for giving me a second chance. Months later, Leonardo had become part of the family's routine. He appeared every weekend, helped with household chores, played with Pedrinho, talked with Medium Isabel. He had learned to cook simple dishes, to fix broken things, to find joy in the small things. His company continued to prosper under Rodrigo's supervision, but Leonardo had completely changed his priorities. Marina commented daily on how he seemed happier, more human. Mr. Leonardo, this woman has worked a miracle on you, she said one morning. She certainly has, Marina. She showed me who I can truly be. One Sunday afternoon, while they were all in the small living room watching a movie, Pedrinho asked a question that changed everything. Uncle Leonardo, are you going to marry Mummy? Leticia blushed. Pedrinho, but it's true that people who like each other get married, right? Leonardo looked at Leticia, then at Medium Isabel, who was smiling discreetly. Pedrinho, what do you think about that? I'd really like that. Then you'd be my real daddy. Leonardo felt his eyes well up with tears. got up from the sofa, and knelt in front of Leticia. "Leonardo, what are you doing?" she whispered. "Leticia Santos, you taught me what true love is. You showed me that happiness cannot be bought. It is built. You gave me a family I never thought I could have." He took a small box from his pocket. "It's not an expensive ring. It's simple, like our story should have been from the beginning." Leticia was crying, as was MDM Isabel. "Will you marry me? Will you form a real family with me?" "Yes," she whispered. "1,000 times yes." Pedrinho shouted with joy and threw himself into their arms. MDM Isabel applauded from her armchair, crying with happiness. A year later, Leonardo and Leticia were married in a simple ceremony, but one filled with love. MDM Isabel had significantly improved with proper treatment. Pedrinho called Leonardo Daddy, and Leticia had returned to university, finally realizing her dream of becoming a nurse. Leonardo learned that true love is not one with lies or money. It is one with truth, patience, and the willingness to become a better person every day. And so, the man who pretended to be poor to find love discovered that true wealth was in being loved exactly as he was, imperfect but willing to grow.